Hello there, people of the internet. So once again, today's conversation is going to stem from a conversation that I had with somebody else. We were talking about how effective some cartridges were at doing specific tasks, and then we were talking about how some cartridges were just more available than others. So it does not matter the effectiveness downrange if you cannot get that particular cartridge. Now, right now, while times are good, as of right now of recording, it is March of 2023. I think it's still March. Yeah, it's March of 2023. And ammunition prices have gone down from all of the panicking and whatnot that we saw in the previous couple of years. So you can go out and get yourself some ammunition. However, whenever times are bad and ammunition is not always all that available, a lot of the times, yes, we will see price gouging, but a lot of the very common ammunition is still going to be available. However, that right there is probably a conversation that we're going to have for another time. Right now, I want to talk about, like, if things get even worse than what we saw before and you cannot buy ammunition. Like, let's just call it a full-on Hollywood-style SHTF apocalyptic situation to where society has just completely collapsed. And you are to the point to where you're not going to get resupplied by buying stuff from a store. So we were talking about what would probably be the best cartridges to go ahead and stock up on, and, well, what's the word I'm looking for? The best cartridges to base yourself around, to base your system around, the best cartridges to base yourself around. Now, whenever I'm talking about this, I'm talking about here in the United States. I know I have some other viewers from other countries, and if you are in another country, then maybe this topic or this discussion won't necessarily apply to you. So here in the United States, we were talking about how basically stockpiling and getting yourself rifles chambered in NATO calibers would probably be the best option to go with. Like, for example, I'm sure you guys saw this coming, 223 5.56 ammunition. I don't care if you're going to rock 62 grain or 55 grain or 77 grain, whatever it is that you're going to rock, you know, you go ahead and you go for it. But with all of the people here in the United States that are stockpiling ammunition, and there are quite a few of them, especially after all of the nonsense that we saw in 2020 and 2021, there's quite a few more people out there that are stockpiling ammunition. A lot of these people are stockpiling 223 5.56. Not only are our armed forces and NATO forces using this extremely common and available caliber of ammunition, but here in the United States, well, we can get it cheaply, we can get it easily, and it's very universal. The AR platform is definitely America's rifle, and a lot of people are going to this extremely modular, extremely robust, extremely reliable, extremely capable, and not that expensive of a system in order to defend their life and liberty in the event that they have to defend it. And this rifle is chambered for the most part in 223 5.56. There are other chamberings out there, but by a wide margin, a tremendous margin, people are stocking up on 223 5.56. Here in the United States, we have just warehouses, massive stockpiles of this ammunition available. And that's not something that we have for non-NATO calibers. Of course, there are going to be extreme amounts of ammunition for other calibers out there on the market, but by far, by and large, 223 5.56 or 7.62 by 51, although that is a lesser extent, people are definitely leaning towards 223 5.56 if we're talking about the masses of people here in the United States. You are going to get the people in the United States who prefer the battle rifle concept, having a larger, less of an intermediate caliber cartridge to send lead downrange. But that is definitely the exception, not the norm. And then you're going to have quite a few people who stockpile com block cartridges like 7.62 by 39 and 7.62 by 51. However, you run into the same problem. Yes, they're going to be quite common here in the United States, but not even close to as common as what we see with 223 5.56. We do not have the massive warehouses and massive stockpiles of 7.62 by 39 that we do with 223 5.56 and 7.62 by 51 NATO. So if you're going to go out and get yourself an AR platform chambered in 300 blackout, yes, that's available, but it's dramatically more expensive. Or get yourself something in 6.5 Grendel, or get yourself something in maybe an AR-10 and 6.5 Creedmoor. You know, insert your choice of non-NATO regulated caliber here. If you're going to go out and do that, the likelihood of you being able to find ammunition for that rifle is dramatically less if there is no, you know, paid for resupply. It's dramatically less than finding ammunition for a 223-556 rifle. Now, it's not just this rifle right here. There's all sorts of 223-556 rifles out there. I don't care what it is you decide to pick. I recommend the AR platform here in the United States just because of how predominant it is. But like I said before, if you want to go with 7.62 NATO, that is also an incredibly common ammunition that we have here in the United States. Get yourself a rifle that can handle 308 ammunition so you can go ahead and run both. Now, as far as handguns go, 9mm. Yes, 9mm is not the best cartridge. It's not the most powerful cartridge. There's a caterpillar who's about to make his way over to my camera. Come on, buddy, get out of there. 9mm is not the most powerful. It's not the most capable. There are some cartridges out there that are incredibly capable, but odds are you're going to come across some sort of full metal jacket, which is not the best cartridge for defensive purposes, but my God, is it absolutely everywhere. I think here in the United States, somewhere along the lines of 80% of your defensive handguns are going to be chambered in 9mm. Of course, there are 40 and 45 out there. There's quite a bit of 40 and 45 out there. However, 9mm is by far the most common. If you are out and about in some sort of apocalyptic situation, make sure there's nothing alive on my rifle here. If you're out and about in some sort of apocalyptic situation, the odds of you coming across 9mm are extremely high, especially in comparison to some other handgun cartridges. If you go to a 7.62 Tokarev, then you might find yourself with some difficulty whenever it comes to finding ammunition. Yes, 7.62 Tokarev is definitely a far more powerful round than 9mm, but 9mm is going to be way more available. Like 223-556, 6.5 Grendel absolutely smokes 223-556 out at long ranges. Within like 500 yards, I'd say that's about the max range for 223-556. The reason that 223-556 is so capable, it has such good terminal ballistics, is because of its velocity. And out at long ranges, it just loses that velocity, so it loses that capability, especially if we're talking about 55 grain and 62 grain projectiles. But you bump that up to 6.5 Grendel and suddenly you have yourself an extremely capable cartridge. Or if you're running a shorter barrel rifle that has a suppressor on it, then hey, go ahead and run yourself a 300 Blackout. Those are exceptionally good rounds for running quiet. However, they're not ones that you can find massive stockpiles of. Or 7.62 NATO, we have much better cartridges out there that fire way more precise at extremely long ranges than 7.62 NATO. But guess what? 7.62 NATO is by far the most common cartridge. Well, I say 7.62 NATO. 7.62 NATO /308 is by far the most common cartridge in terms of full power cartridge here in the United States. Maybe 30-06 might have it pegged. I'm not 100% sure. I know there's a lot of 30-06 out there on the market as well. A lot of options, and the 30-06 has been around for a very long time here in the United States. But man, 308, I'd have to give it. I'd have to give it to the 308 in popularity in terms of the modern generation. I'm sure that the previous generation is still probably leaning towards the 30-06. But this is no longer the previous generation now, is it? So is 5.56 the best cartridge? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Is 9mm the best cartridge? Absolutely not. However, can you find it literally everywhere? Yes, you can. If you go into any sporting goods store or any gun store or anywhere, they're going to have 223, 5.56, and 9mm. And they're probably going to have 7.62 NATO or 308 as well. So yeah, it's available. Yes, you can get it. No, it's not very expensive. It's more expensive than I'd like it to be, don't get me wrong, but it's still something that you can find and that you can use. That poor steel down there has been through so much. Actually, I just came out here the other day with a buddy. We had a range day and we absolutely blew the living hell out of that steel. So I just spent some 223 5.56 ammo downrange. Now I'm going to go ahead and send some 9mm rounds downrange, because why the hell not? That right there is a Delton DTI 15, not an overly expensive rifle, nothing extravagant. And this right here is a Ruger P89, also nothing extravagant. I have videos on both of these if you want to check them out and get more information on the firearms themselves. Uh-oh. With how the sun is, I can't see my sights all that well. And that looked low. There we go. Alright. Man, that sun is just right in the wrong spot. It's right in the wrong spot. Okay, so just because it is not the greatest cartridges on the market, like for example, 30 Super Carry, have you guys checked that out? It dramatically blows 9mm out of the water. You get all the pros of 9mm and none of the cons. I recommend checking that out if you have not already. And as of right now, like, things might change. I know the US is adopting a new cartridge, and who knows what's going to happen with handgun calibers in the future. I think that it's a safe bet to say that these cartridges are probably going to be around for my lifetime and your lifetime, and they're probably going to be the most predominant cartridges out there. So I know that there's a lot of 223, 5.56 rifles out there, and they're probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. We might see 7.62 NATO get replaced with 6.8, whatever that new military cartridge is. We might see a replacement of that, because if that 6.8 cartridge is adopted, then here in the next couple of decades they might replace 7.62 NATO entirely with that. So that might be something to think about, but like I said, I doubt that's gonna really affect us in our lifetime. Maybe the next generation, but I doubt it will affect us. However, I don't foresee this right here going anywhere, just because there are so many of these rifles here in the United States. Like several tens of, potentially even hundreds of millions of these rifles. Not necessarily these rifles, but a lot. There's a lot of these rifles here in the United States that are chambered in 223, 5.56. I'm not necessarily just specifically talking about the AR platform. There's a lot of other platforms out there also chambered in 223, 5.56. This right here is definitely the most predominant, but there's a lot of stuff out there. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. There's my sling. I was wondering where that ran off to the other day whenever I came out here making videos. I brought this out here and it was green, so I didn't see it. It kind of camouflaged into the pile of crap right there that I tossed it into. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Of course, you can do whatever you want, stockpile whatever you want. It's a free country. Just bear in mind that if something does happen and you're not getting any resupply, the odds of you finding ammo for this is dramatically better than the odds of you finding 6.5 Grendel laying around or something like that. So just bear that in mind. Availability sometimes does trump effectiveness. I guess that's the word I'm going to use, effectiveness. Availability does sometimes trump effectiveness. Of course, this is still a very effective cartridge. I guess it all depends on what it is that you're looking to use said cartridge for. So thanks for watching, folks. What is it that you decide to go ahead and go to? Let me know in the comments down below. Besides that, like, subscribe, share. Description below, link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you all in the next episode. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett.
shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.